हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्णा। Okay. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य चालम पंगुम लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you for joining. In our last session on the Srimad Bhagavat, we concluded our discussions on the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavat, and now we are entering the sixth canto. So another big milestone. So the sixth canto, I mean, before I get into the chapter proper, the sixth canto is a very interesting canto in terms of the topic that this particular canto deals with. So this particular canto deals more specifically with the topic of Poshanam. Poshanam means the Lord's protection and nourishment of his devotees. Now this topic is actually very, very, very attractive to the devotees. Very interesting to the devotees. Of course, we have discussed Sarga, Visarga, Manvantaras, Sthanam, and so many other topics, which are wonderful knowledge. But as sadhakas, especially as bhaktas who are trying to develop a personal relationship with the Lord, what is especially of interest and what actually attracts, I shouldn't say actually attracts, most attracts devotees is the dealings of the Lord with the devotees. Of course, Krishna is beautiful, Krishna is opulent, all these things are wonderful and definitely are attractive. But if you remember, amongst the 4 super excellent qualities of Krishna is how he has very sweet, loving relationships with his devotees. The kind of relationships which one will not even find with any other personality, even an expansion of the personality of God. So it's very special and sweet. And of course, in this particular context, in this chapter, it's not all exclusively about Krishna only. It is about various forms of the personality of God, including Narayana and others. But the important thing is that the Lord, being especially affectionate to his devotees, even though generally he doesn't involve himself in getting too much involved in the way various living entities live out their destiny under the purview of the laws of karma. When it comes to his devotees, the Lord takes very special attention. While the Lord is generally Vishwambhara, he is the one who nourishes the whole world in a general way, but in a very personal, specific way, he is Bhakta Vatsala. He is especially affectionate to his devotees. And he nourishes and protects them in various special ways. And this kind of special ways in which the Lord favors, protects, nourishes his devotees. And we are not talking only about perfected devotees. We are even talking about sadhakas here. Is a quality of the Lord, a nature of the Lord, a part of the character of the Lord, which is very amazing and astonishing. Very amazing. And this character of the Lord is actually our great hope. And this chapter has many beautiful pastimes about how the Lord extends his special protection, mercy to his devotees. So there are various pastimes covered in this particular chapter. In this particular canto. So this canto is around 19 chapters long. It's not very long. As compared to the first 4 cantos are quite big. Of course, the previous canto 26 chapters, 5th canto, this is around 19. So in that sense, not very voluminous, but very, 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 very deep and sweet lessons. So much wonderful things to learn, especially for those who are making a serious endeavor to advance in Krishna consciousness. And we'll go through that and we'll try to discuss according to our capacity, reflect on some of these very finer lessons in Krishna consciousness. Because these are very hope-giving. Not only just hope-giving, but they give us a better understanding of how the Lord deals with his devotees. Of course, the Lord ultimately is independent. We cannot say, oh Lord, you did like this with this person, so you must treat me in the same way. So, cannot pin down the Lord like that, but we get a general indication of the Lord's personality and character. So this particular chapter, this particular canto has broadly around 3-4 broad areas which are covered in sections of few chapters. The initial part of this particular sixth canto, in fact, around the first 3 chapters, are actually focused on the pastime of Ajamil. This is a very interesting episode, and this topic of Ajamil is a direct outcome of the conclusion of the previous canto, which is about the hellish planets. So how that transition happens, how the conversation goes into Ajamil, that is what we'll be discussing today. So around 3 chapters there. Then as the canto progresses, 4th canto onwards, 4th to 6th is focused on Daksha Prajapati. Daksha is a very interesting personality. Even though we criticize him in various ways for certain faults which he displayed, he's a very multifaceted personality. He's not an ordinary person. Very, very great. Very powerful Prajapati. So when you are so extraordinarily, superlatively powerful, in a mundane sense, this world, because he got a little high-headed and he offended Lord Shiva and so many things happened. Of course, right now, he's a very saintly personality. He has learned his lessons. But a very, very lot of lessons to learn from his own life story. And many beautiful stories, apart from, we think, it's only about Sati. But there are very interesting lessons of what, of his own experiences in his own family life with his various children. So that's going to be another very interesting episode. He went through a lot of ups and downs in his own Grahastha ashram. So we'll be discussing, so chapters 4 to 6 are around that particular topic. Then, of course, in general, in the Bhagavatam, the canto, the population of the universe in terms of Visarga continues. This canto also discusses, while the primary focus is on Poshanam, the Poshanam stories are explained in the context of the descendants of the daughters of Daksha. So there are various pastimes. There are 4 more main pastimes which are covered in the subsequent part, in the second half of the 6th canto. The pastimes begin with this very interesting episode between Indra and Vishwarupa. Interesting story. Then there is the very, 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 very interesting pastime of Vritrasur. Amazing lessons. Amazing lessons. I think amongst the most profound. Very little known because, most people, when they hear about the Vritrasur story, they only listen to the outline. There was Indra, and then, fought with Vritrasur. He swallowed Vritrasur, and Vritrasur eventually killed him. Sorry, Athaviram. Indra eventually killed Vritrasur. My apologies. So Indra was the good guy, and Vritrasur, the Asura, was the demon. So of course, this pastime is explained in a significant detail in the Bhagavad Purana. I'm not sure whether any other Puranas explain this pastime. But when we go through this pastime, because this pastime also gives the background of Vritrasur, which is that of Maharaj Chitraketu. That's another beautiful pastime. So this is also, some of these pastimes which are related to Poshanam are mega soap opera like, not just, what happened for these few years from this lifetime, and this happened in the next lifetime, and this, we discussed about Bharat Maharaj's story. So Vritrasur's story from Chitraketu, what happened, this happened, then this happened, then he did like this. It's mind-boggling. And how through that whole saga, which was not at all smooth. Sometimes we expect, right, some of these very great devotees. He started and he made it. So Bhagavatam is full of stories of successful candidates in devotional service who went through so many ups and downs before they made it. And they continued to go through ups and downs even after they made it. Made it in the sense, after having even attained the platform of pure devotion. So there are many lessons to learn from that perspective as well. Very, very beautiful. In fact, these pastimes are amongst my favorite, especially Vritrasur, because of the specific lessons which are embedded, which I feel are so very important for sadhakas, especially those who are serious about developing pure devotional service, to actually assimilate into their consciousness. Of course, I cannot claim that I have assimilated into my consciousness, but at least it has given me the recognition that I have to elevate my consciousness to be able to think, to live in the paradigm which Vritrasur was able to, and he demonstrated. That is why he became very, very dear to the Lord. So at the end of the story, those who read the Bhagavatam version of the story, for them Vritrasur is the hero and Indra is the villain. Actually, my obeisances to Lord Indra. I am not trying to criticize him, but just the relative. He's also, the interesting thing about this whole episode is this is a fight between two devotees. And that's what makes these pastimes very interesting, because how through both of these episodes, the Lord takes care of both the devotees and gives both of them what they deserve according to their motivation, according to their elevation. It's very beautiful. So there are many, many beautiful lessons. And that's why we go on repeating that life isn't so black and white. We are often tempted to think in terms of this person is good, this person is bad. Who's fully good and who is fully bad? Especially for those who are so actively involved in the society of devotees, oftentimes conflicts are not between a devotee and a demon, but oftentimes they are between two devotees. So a lot of interesting lessons from here also, practical lessons for all of us. Just giving an overview right now. I'm not going to go into what those lessons are. So these are all just trailers for what is upcoming, so that you don't miss these classes. So I so much love, especially the story of Vritrasur. Then of course Chitraketu, which is his previous lifetime, and then the canto concludes in chapter 18 and 19 with pastimes which are related to Diti and Indra. That's also another very interesting episode. So this whole canto is filled with these kind of interactions, not between a good and a bad party, but most of these pastimes are interaction between devotees. Of course, one may be higher than the other in their devotional attitude, but that's why I said Daksha should not be labeled as a bad character. Just imagine if Sati can be born as his daughter, whatever other things may be, And if he is the Prajapati for so many great personalities who are either his children, so many of his children became pure devotees and went back to God. So how many of us can produce children who will become pure devotees? He has produced hundreds, and we'll discuss about them. So while we want to learn from the failings in the lives of these great personalities, I'm just mentioning this that we should not be in our heart think negatively about these personalities. We should thank them for the lessons that they have left behind for us. And all of them have grown through these lessons. They haven't failed. They seem to have failed. They struggled. They fell down, but they got up and rose higher. That is the important. There's a very wonderful saying that those who are too fearful to fail never progress in life because they always remain in their comfort zone. They never do anything which will bring about any significant progress. This is true in the material sphere. This is true in the spiritual sphere. Growth is always struggle, and struggle is always not a straight graph up, upwards, but up and down. The important thing for sadhakas is to remember that even if we fail, either we make mistakes or we become overwhelmed by Maya, by ignorance at times, and get involved in a behavior which may be abominable. The important thing is that we realize, repent, learn, and continue to progress on. So like that, many, many beautiful lessons. So sixth canto is very interesting. Dealing with these various beautiful pastimes. So the first chapter of this particular canto is the chapter which is entitled The History of the Life of Ajamila. Now the entire pastime of Ajamila is around 3 chapters because there are a lot of instructions. Quite a bit of it is conversations between Yamadutas and Vishnudutas, and that is a very, very interesting episode. And this is quite a 68 verses. I don't intend to complete the chapter. I want to give the prelude of the chapter. I intend to cover the first 20 verses of the chapter today, and we will complete the chapter, the rest of the chapter, around 46 verses, whatever remaining, in the subsequent class. The reason is I don't want to hurry. And the first 20 verses, even though the pastime of Ajamil doesn't start, the first 20 verses have very, very wonderful spiritual wisdom and philosophical points which are very important for us to understand. Because that leads us to the point of understanding and appreciating the potency of the process of devotional service, and especially within the pastime of Ajamil, the potency of the holy name. So this particular chapter begins by Maharaj Parikshit summarizing what he has learned so far. So first few verses he's talking about that. Because just fifth canto has been completed, the entire description of the hellish planets and all that. So he tells Shukdev Goswami, "Oh Shukdev Goswami, you have discussed and described so many wonderful things. You have discussed about primary creation, secondary creation. You have discussed about descendants, Uttanapa, descendants of Prevrat. So many beautiful things you have spoken about. So many dynasties you have spoken about. Right from the first Manvantara, Swayambhuva Manu. So many details. You have also, as a part of the secondary creation, described the structure of the universe, the vertical universe, the horizontal universe, the hellish planets, the various valleys and mountains and varshas and all the kinds of living entities who are populating all these various realms. And you have also broadly described the two paths, the Pravritti Marga and the Nivritti Marga. What is the Pravritti Marg? Pravritti Marg is the path of cultivation of material good fortune, especially in the form of elevation to higher planets. And most people who follow religion are followers of Pravritti Marg. What do they think? If I am good, if I follow the rules and regulations of my religious system, then I'll go to heaven. And what will happen in heaven? Have a good time. And they, based on the scriptural description of heaven, they think, wow, this is good. So they will do yajna, dana, tapa according to scriptures. And they will accumulate the necessary pious credits to go to heavenly planets. And that's a bona fide, shastrically approved path. So what is the problem? Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. All these rituals, karma kanda, which take one to the heavenly planets, are within the realm of the three gunas, and that's why one remains trapped in the cycle of karma. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. And there is never pure pleasure in the material world. It's always mixed with misery. Dukkhalayam ashashva. So you have described that entire process. Goes up, enjoys, exhausts the results of their piety, comes down again. Again has to gather. Correct? Just like, oftentimes people who are in jobs throughout the year, they are earning, paying their bills and doing everything. And finally, somehow just get 2-week leave, 3-week leave. And whatever money they have saved and accumulated, they will go for a foreign trip. Enjoy, spend that money, come back. Again, get back to their job. Again, earn. So earn, spend. Earn, spend. So the unending thing. And you have also described, along with Pravritti Marg, Nivritti Marg, those who are more intelligent, they take the Nivritti Marg. Pravritti Marg is the path of attachment, matter, and Nivritti Marg is the path of detachment from matter. Nivritti. Vritti tarshay rupagiyamana dhaushadachut. This word Nivritti comes many, many times across the Bhagavatam and across Vedic texts. Nivritti is the path of detachment. Detachment from what? Detachment from material enjoyment. Not being excited for bhog, aishwarya, swarga, having a kind of indifferent attitude that, So what do these people who are in Nivritti Marg cultivate? They cultivate knowledge and spiritual elevation. And when they take that path, gradually they go higher and higher and higher through the realms. Because those who are absorbed in Traigunya are mainly circling around Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Remember we discussed that. Fruitive activities, Bhu Bhuva Swaha. Those who are not interested in fruitive activity go beyond that. They start going higher beyond Swaha, Janar, Tapa, Satya, all the way up to Brahma Loka. And when they gradually start going higher and higher, as they develop more and more detachment and develop more and more realization of their spiritual nature and the nature of the absolute truth, they go higher, 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 all the way until they attain Brahma Loka. And after attaining Brahma Loka, eventually, when the universe ends and Brahma goes back to Godhead along with him, they also attain perfection. If they're impersonalists, they merge into Brahman. If they're personalists, they can get an opportunity to do the spiritual work. So broadly, that is the Nivrutti Marg. So upwards, 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 up to Brahmalok, and then finally transcend. So all this you have described. Nivrutti Marg, Sarga, Visarga, the descendants, the Manvantaras. The dynasties, the cosmology. Thank you very much. It has been so enlightening so far. But I am very concerned what you mentioned at the end of the Sthanam section. Spoke about the hellish planets. This is very scary. And I'm paraphrasing. I didn't literally use these words. This is very scary. This kind of suffering. And it is so common. See, people engage in so many kinds of sinful activities. So Shukadev Goswami, please explain to me how people can be saved from entering these kind of hellish conditions. There is terrible, terrible pain. Adhuneha Mahabhaga Yathaiva Narakan Naraha Anugdra Yatana Neya Tanme Vyakhyatum Arhasi. How they can avoid this kind of hellish. So you described about hell and sins. Is there a way to avoid going there? Because that is really scary. So Shukadev Goswami starts explaining the process of how one can avoid getting into the hell. So this is how the discussion begins. So first thing Shukadev Goswami explains is, you see, Parikshit Maharaj, each person, based on whatever activities he has performed, body, words, mind, there are equivalent reactions for them. And especially for sinful activities, there are equivalent reactions. And based on the karma and the quantum of those kind of activities, may be put into hellish planets to suffer. But if a person who has accumulated sin, based on which he is liable to go to hell, wants to escape from going to hell, and that is your question, he can escape from going to hell if he performs the necessary atonement, as explained in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. If he doesn't do the necessary atonement means Prayaschitta. In other words, you have to pay the fine. Correct? Pay the fine. Now you break traffic rules. What does the government say? Either you willingly come and pay the fine, or we put you in jail. Of course, for the equivalent period, it will not be long, for one day. Or they'll take your car away, or whatever that punishment be. Either you willingly pay for your misdemeanor, and the fine is proportional according to the offense. So within the scriptures also there is a method. In case something you do, and now you, based on what the Shrutis and Smritis say, you are destined to suffer in a hellish situation, and you are still alive, I must do something. How can I counteract? So there is a means to counteract. Counteract means essentially payback before you die. So if you settle it before you die, you don't carry it into your, it will not carry you into a hellish situation. So this is the first thing which Shukadev Goswami explains. And he gives a nice example. He says, just like a doctor, a Vaidya, based on the seriousness of the disease that a particular person has, he treats the disease according to how serious the disease is. Correct? Both the intensity of the medication and the strict rules that a person follows to overcome a particular disease are all based on what is the level of the disease. So similarly, if you, based on the severity of our karma, the Vedic doctor, the scriptures have prescribed certain atonements. If you perform the atonements according to the scriptures, then you won't have to suffer the reactions of those sins. So what this means, I just want to emphasize it because this is an interesting concept. While this is not mentioned here explicitly, essentially what that means is, when you commit an offense, you have to pay ordinarily. Of course, what are the exceptions? We will come to that a little later. Ordinarily, for a Traigunya Vishaya person, a person who is within the fruitive activity, karma kanda realm, he cannot escape his karma. Good karma, bad karma doesn't cancel each other. You cannot say I stole $1,000 from here and I give $1,000 in donation. So cancel. Doesn't work. So you have to enjoy for your donation and you have to suffer for your stealing. So law of karma is very intricate. So the idea is, for whatever karma, and now we are talking about sin, whatever karma you have performed, either you willingly suffer for it, or we will make you suffer. We meaning the system and the divine order, Prakriti, by dragging you into a hellish situation and making you suffer. Either you willingly pay and settle the matter proportionately. Not that you decide, oh, I murdered somebody, now I'll give 11 rupees in Hanuman temple and my job is done. You don't decide. The scriptures give based on certain, there are very, very specific rules for this. Various scenarios are listed and what kind of atonement is. And of course, this requires not just a book reference because the book will not give everything, but sometimes one has to consult with learned people as to what is the appropriate atonement. But the principle is, if you voluntarily accept the inconvenience on yourself for the karma that you have performed proportionately, then because you have yourself undergone the punishment, then you are not again taken for punishment. That is basically the principle. It's not that you actually escape the punishment. Either you undergo the inconvenience yourself in this world, in this life, so that you don't have to go to a hellish situation. So there is a method there. Much similar like what we said to the fine, right? Either you pay the fine or you go to jail. So there are various kinds of atonements. I don't want to go into that here. Karma Kanda goes into that. Some are of the type of donation, some are of the type of yajna, some are of the type of dan. Essentially, it is yajna, dan and tapa, most of them. And there are other atonements also, but all based on the principles of various dharmic principles. So this is the solution which Maharaj Parikshit is initially recommended by Shukadev Goswami. So Shukadev Goswami listens. He's a very bright student and he has already heard so much. He's already a great devotee himself. He's not particularly impressed by what Shukadeva Goswami has told him. Because essentially what Shukadeva Goswami told him is that you can, to be saved from the reactions of sinful activities, you must perform karma kanda, atonement. So Parikshit Maharaj counter questions Shukadeva Goswami. Says, oh Parikshit Maharaj, you explained about this atonement. But isn't it that we see in this world that people, they perform sins? They sometimes know also this is bad, but they will still do it. And again they commit the sin. They commit sin, they suffer. They again commit sin, they suffer. So what really is the use of this kind of an atonement? Is that actually a real solution to the problem of sinful behavior? Yes, sometimes a person, when he does atonement or he gets punished, yes, for some time he may feel, no, I must not do this again. But again, after some time, he will again do the same thing. He doesn't lose the desire to do the sinful activity. All this kind of atonement business that you have spoken about, this kind of karma kanda, I think this is like an elephant taking bath. Why says elephant bath? Kunjara sauchavat. क्वचिन निवर्तते अभद्रात क्वचिन चरति तत् पुनः प्रायश्चित्तम अथो अपार्थम मन्ये कुंजर शौचवत. Kunjara शौचवत means this is like bathing of an elephant. Why? Elephant is dirty, he goes in the lake or the river, bathes, and as soon as he bathes, he comes out, he again rolls in the mud. So you commit sin, then you do prayaschitta. But again, because your desire to perform sin has not gone, your attachment to materialistic things have not gone. Again, you will perform sin. Again, you will atone. Either you will atone or you will be put in hell. Again, you come back. Maybe for some time you may say, no, now not again. But after some time, again, that also you will forget because that desire is not gone. Again, it will propel you into the direction of committing sin. So this cycle will go on. What is the use of this atonement? This is a very patchwork solution. Get a boil here, you apply ointment here, and suddenly the boil comes here. Apply ointment here, the boil comes here. You're not solving the root problem. So, essentially Parikshit Maharaj rejects the karma kanda method to counteract sinful actions. And actually, inside, Shukadeva Goswami is very happy because actually Shukadeva Goswami, not that he doesn't know the right answer, he's testing Parikshit Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj's understanding. Shukadeva Goswami says, okay, now let me give you a bit more deeper answer. Let's see whether he's able to see through what I'm trying to tell him. So then Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj that the real atonement for dealing with sinful reaction is to be enlightened in perfect knowledge. Why? Because sin is caused by ignorance. And if you remove ignorance through proper knowledge, then what will happen? Then you will be free. So not just atonement, not just karma kanda, but jnana kanda. You have to destroy the sin. Karma nirharaha. By removing ignorance. Yeah, karma kanda doesn't remove ignorance. That is true. That's why this jnana kanda is better because through jnana kanda one develops knowledge. Jnana is the cure for this disease. Just like Shukadeva Goswami gives an example, a person who is diseased, he is told to, don't eat this kind of food. If he follows the prescribed rules and regulations, what to eat, what to not to, the do's and don'ts, the yama and niyama, gradually he becomes restored to good health. Similarly, a person who follows knowledge properly and cultivates sattvic principles, gradually becomes free from material contamination and progresses in the path of liberation. So one should follow these principles, whether it is austerity, celibacy, mind control, sense control, truthfulness, charity, cleanliness, all these various. Then one becomes better purified. And then he gives an example. He says, just like if there is a forest of bamboos, sometimes bamboo is actually a type of grass. And bamboos, once they grow, actually it takes a long time to grow, but once they grow very wild, very fast. So if one wants to clear a bamboo forest, the easiest way is let the bamboo dry and then put fire. So he says, cultivation of knowledge is like that gradually through cultivation of knowledge, the bamboo trees will dry and eventually they will catch fire and the entire bamboo forest will burn to ashes. So this is the power of Jnana. But Parikshit Maharaj is still not very happy. He's still not very impressed. You know why? Because he's thinking, yes, the bamboo forest will get cleared, everything above the ground will be burned, but the roots of the bamboo tree are under the soil. They are not burnt. The fire of knowledge will burn everything above. But what about the root? The root, which is essentially in this particular analogy, the root materialistic desire which is ultimately causing the sin. So even though in one sense the external sins may disappear, if the deepest desire to perform sin has not been cleansed from the heart altogether, then even Jnana Kanda will not altogether remove the chances of somebody going to hell. Yes, possibly much more effective than Karma Kanda. If the heart is not thoroughly purified of the deeper propensities to enjoy. Ultimately, what is the root of sin? This is a very important point to understand. What exactly is the root of sin? At an external level, avidya, not knowing, I should not steal, stealing is bad, these are the laws of dharma, I should follow. All that is good, all that is okay. That is still at a superficial level. Because just knowing that and being knowledge about that is not going to pluck out your desire to do it. It will be an inhibitor to do sin, but it doesn't remove the desire to do sin, isn't it? So what is exactly at the deepest level which propels a person to do sin? In the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna asks a similar question to Arjuna. Krishna says, it is lust only. Kamo, kam. Mahashano Mahapapma. This is the great enemy of the spiritual person. Lust. What does lust mean? Lust is not just referring to just attraction between the male and female. Lust means the intense desire to enjoy materially. As long as the living entity has a desire to enjoy materially, the tendency to sin will not go away altogether. And what is the meaning of the desire to enjoy materially at a deeper level? What is the root of it? At the deepest level, the desire to enjoy materially has its foundation in the attitude of the soul that I want to enjoy independent of the Lord. So this attitude of rebellion from the Lord, rejecting the Lord, wanting to be an independent enjoyer from the Lord, is ultimately the root cause, the root of the tree of sin. And that is why, unless the root of the sin is plucked out from deep within the heart, the weeds of lusty desires, and eventually which will translate into lusty, sinful activities, will keep propping up again and again and again, and will never end until the root is plucked out. That's a very, very important and significant point to note. So that is why even if one practices jnana, material desires may again come. And in the Bhagavatam, in another place, it's not mentioned in this chapter, there's a very specific verse to that effect. Ye anne arvindaksha muktamaninatvayashta bhavad vishuddha buddhayah aruyya krichena parampadam tatah patanti adhoho anadrita yushmadangrayah. Those who are not yet properly purified by taking shelter of your lotus feet, O Lord, even though they may progress very high through jnana and come almost near the point of liberation, they again fall down. Why? Because their desire to enjoy independently hasn't been totally uprooted from their heart because of not taking shelter of your lotus. Anadrita Yushmad Angraya. It's very, very profound, very deep point. Which essentially means that for complete uprooting of the seeds of sinful desire, deepest roots, the seeds has to be, when the seed is burnt, the roots are burnt, then it will never sprout again. That cannot happen through jnana. That can happen only through the process of bhakti. So when Parikshit Maharaj is not very happy with just the jnana explanation, finally, Sukadeva Goswami goes deeper, sees that this student is a sincere student. He has actually understood what I have been teaching all this while. He has assimilated the subject matter. You know, sometimes as a teacher, good teacher is developing the topic, suddenly in between, they will throw a trick question just to check whether the students are actually understanding the subject. And a smart, attentive student will catch it. Say, just last class you mentioned this, and now you're mentioning this. How does this? Doesn't sound correct. Ah, yes. You are listening attentively. You have understood what I have spoken so far. All others are simply nodding their heads. They're simply waiting for the period to get over. An attentive student will even catch. The teacher is waiting to see who's that smart student who will grasp what I'm trying to say. So Parikshit Maharaj, even though 7 days, 7 nights, he was attending the Bhagavad Katha, we can understand how he was absorbing each and every point. He was not just sitting there, oh, I have to die in 7 days, let me just sit here, you talk whatever you want to do, I'm just sitting here 7 days, 7 nights, and then I'll die. I'll go back to God alone. Early hearing Harikatha, everything, attentively, without taking food, without taking water, without sleeping, knowing that he is going to die. So he was not even in fear, oh, I'm going to die, what will happen? So very, very beautiful verse is mentioned at this point, which actually concludes not this whole section, but establishes the principle of what actually removes sinful desires, the root of sinful desires or the seed of sinful desires. Kechita kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agham dhunvanti kartsnena niharam iva bhaskaraha. Very beautiful verse. Very sweet. Only a very rare person. Kechit means someone rare, not a common person. What kind of kechit? Kevalaya bhaktya, who has through exclusive devotion has become Vasudev Parayan, taken complete shelter of the lotus feet of Vasudev through devotional service. Agam dhunvanti, dhunvanti means totally washed away. Dhoke, agham, all kinds of sinful tendencies. Dhunvanti, kartsnena, kartsnena means completely. No stains left. Right? Sometimes there are stains on the clothes. Wash also nicely through washing machine, through whatever we do. Still there is a little bit stain. Kartsnena, Iharam iva bhaskara. And the example he gives is just like very early morning, there is fog. In the fog, you cannot see anything clearly. But then as the sunrise happens, as the sun's rays, even as the sun is just coming above the horizon, when the initial rays from the sun, as they pass through the fog, just totally dissipates the fog. Niharam iva bhaskara. The fog just disappears and everything becomes clear. Similarly, a person who engages in pure devotional service unto Vasudeva, actually it's not, we don't even have to wait for the sun to come up into the sky. Even the initial rays of the rising sun will dissipate the fog. Similarly, when a person practices pure devotional service, even as a sadhaka, practicing with the right faith by having taken shelter of a bona fide spiritual master with the right motivation, if he's practicing, even though he may not have yet become fully purified, when those initial process of bhakti is so powerful that it can destroy sins very, very rapidly. And that is why bhakti is the best atonement. Na tathahi agavan rajan yeta tapa adibihi. Austerities and other processes, tapa and adi, cannot purify one from sins as much as yatha Krishna arpita prana, Krishna arpita prana, for one whose heart is offered to Krishna. Tat purusha visevaya. And how does one offer one's heart to Krishna? By serving the Lord's devotees. What does that mean? He who takes shelter of a devotee, he accepts a devotee as his guru and follows the process of devotional service. For him to get rid of his sins is very, very easy. That's why it is especially said, when a person takes sincerely the shelter of a spiritual master and begins the process of bhakti, all his karma is immediately taken away by the Supreme Personality, if he surrenders. So this is the best and the topmost path. The path which is followed by the pure devotees, who are pure in their behavior, all well-mannered, and they are always engaged in trying to take shelter of Lord Narayan. This is the best path to become fearless. Fearless means no worries. No matter what kind of sins they may have performed in the past, and no matter even accidentally if they perform any sin. See, sometimes, for actually most of us who are here, we have taken shelter of the process of devotional service. Many of us have taken initiation also from a spiritual master. We are doing sadhana. Others, even they may not have yet taken initiation, but they are working towards initiation. The very fact that they are regularly hearing here means they have accepted the principle of pure devotional service in their heart, and they are working towards elevating themselves in that direction. But in our current state, because we are still struggling with so many impurities, so many faults happen in our life, even though sometimes we know some things are not appropriate because of weakness, hridaya daurubalyam, we commit mistakes, correct? And then we repent, oh, I shouldn't have done this, but I did this. I'm not yet purified. I still have so many matters I shouldn't have done. So we are still performing so many sins, isn't it? May not be like murder and robbery and dacoity, but still, at a practical level, day to day, some of us may still be struggling to overcome the 4 sinful activities and come to the standard of following the 4 regulative principles. Some may, either in their profession or their business or their dealings with others, may be doing activities which are inappropriate. But as long as one is taken shelter of the process of devotional service, not to say that it is okay to do that, but they need not be fearful that they will be subject to the punishment of Yamaraj. It's a very, very interesting point. No other process can purify so much. The example Shukdev Goswami gives is, let's say there is a pot of liquor. After the liquor is drunk, you simply wash it with water and soap. You still smell it. You still smell like liquor. You wash it again. It will still smell like liquor. Because a liquor bottle, a pot, especially a pot, no matter how much you wash, it cannot get 100% clean. So no other process can cleanse the heart as nicely as the process of devotional service. And the conclusive verse in this section is very nice. So we'll conclude with this. To glorify the position of devotional service as the topmost way of counteracting sinful reactions, Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj that devotional service is so powerful that a person who even once absorbs their mind in Krishna's lotus feet and who somehow become attracted to him, to his name, form, qualities, pastime, somehow sincerely become attracted and take shelter of him even once. They may not yet even be steady in devotional service, but even once they take shelter of him. Such persons, they do not see Yamaraj or the Yamadutas who come with their ropes. They do not see Yamaraj and Yamadutas even in their dreams. Such persons do not need to do any other kind of atonement. Neither do they need to do Karmakanda atonement, nor do they need to do Jnanakanda atonement. They simply have to continue to follow the process of devotional service, even if they are not able to follow it perfectly. Simply by continuing to follow the process of sadhana under the guidance of devotees, they will have achieved much more than all other processes of atonement. And they will not only be free from sin, not only will they never have to see Yamaraj ever again, they will eventually attain the supreme destination because their heart will, in time, become totally purified from the seed of material desire. Sakrin manaha Krishna padaravindayor iveshitam tad gunaragi yer iha nate yamam pasha bhritasta tad bhatan swapnepi pashyantihi chirna nishkritaha. So even once, sakrin means once. Just think about it. So powerful. Huh? There's a similar verse in the Ramayana. Sakrin eva prapanno. Even once, if a person sincerely takes shelter of me, Lord Ramchandra says, and comes to me and says, "Oh Lord, from this day I am yours." Tava asmi iti yachare. Sakrin eva. Once. He says, I immediately accept him and free him. Abhayam. I give him all abhaya fearlessness. Even if he says once, after some time, you may even forget. After some time, you even forget, oh, I told Lord Ramchandra like this, that I am surrendering to you. As long as it was done even once, sincerely, the Lord takes charge of the devotee. The Lord will never allow such a devotee to get degraded into a hellish condition. The Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says, Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam api yasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little performance of pure devotional service can save one from the greatest fear. This is the greatest fear, going to animal species or going to a hellish planet situation. So this is our insurance against seeing Yamadutas, against seeing going to the hellish planets. Even though sometimes, even though we should never have a mentality of thinking it is offensive. See, now I'm a devotee, I will not go to hell, so I can do whatever I want. That attitude will be punished. That becomes punishable. But as one is sincerely executing the principles of devotional service, because of weakness, if there are mistakes happening, those mistakes do not impede the spiritual advancement of a sincere sadhaka. Krishna in due course rectifies and removes all those reactions, and sins never impede the path of a sincere sadhaka. What impedes the path of a sincere sadhaka is aparad and inattention. Inattention means inattention to following the principles of devotional service. These are the two big dangers, aparad and inattention. Inattention means, being lazy to follow the principles of devotion, not properly hearing, chanting, not following the rules and regulations. These are the dangerous situations for a sadhaka. Accidental sin never puts a sadhaka into a difficult situation. And then this section concludes where Sukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, what I just told you, even once, little bit devotional service can save one from great sin. Now I'll tell you a story. Prove. Now I'll tell you a story of a very ancient historical episode where a very sinful person, because of a little devotional service based on what I just said, was saved from great dangerous situation of going into hellish planets. And in that particular episode, that story, there's also a very interesting conversation between Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas, which I'll explain to you, wherein you will also learn a lot of things about the power of devotional service, the power of the Holy Name. So from here onwards, the story of Ajamil begins. So this background is very important, which means, I'm just quickly summarizing, just take 1 minute and then we'll conclude. How to avoid going into hellish planets? If you perform a sin, you have to suffer. So you either atone or go to hell. But atonement is itself not a wonderful, lasting solution. Why? Because you will atone, but again you will perform sin. Again you have to atone. It becomes an elephant bath. So you need to do something more concrete to protect yourself from sin. Cultivate knowledge. But even if you cultivate knowledge, maybe the effect of not doing sin may last for longer, ultimately the deep down desire for material enjoyment would still not have gone away. The only way, ultimately, the root of material desire, which is to enjoy independent of the Lord, which is the root of all sin, is removed from the heart. One will not be altogether free from the tendency to sin. And that kind of uprooting of the desire can only happen by your devotional service. Because pure devotional service is the antidote for the poison of egoistic, selfish enjoyment. It doesn't go by any other means, not by karma, not by jnana. So bhakti is the best atonement, and if you do bhakti, you don't need any other atonement. And you don't even have to immediately, to be saved, become a pure devotee. Even if little bit sincerely you begin, even one sakruneva can be saved from the greatest sin. Don't have to do big atonements. Don't have to do big tapasya, yajna, dana, shastra study, so many principles for. If you are become somehow little bit attracted, by good fortune you are connected in the parampara of pure devotees and you have accepted that goal as your cherished goal in life, you may still be at a very neophyte level. If you have accepted and you become attracted and you are a little endeavor, immediately you attract the Lord's attention and you will receive the special protection of the Lord. The guarantee is you will never see Yamaraj or Yamadutas. So that is a very, very special wish. And then the pastime of Jamil. Thank you very much. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Yes. Yeah. So this is the Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I just wanted to, I think in what substance as what is that based on the class, anything you do without Krishna, it is in a way deemed to be like a material enjoyment. So like for example, like what is it? The devotees at times it might appear that we are involved in example devotional service, like for example listening to class, serving the Lord, and all these things. So but at the other times also we might still continue to what kind of do things without involving the Lord and so on. So for us is at the end of the day, whatever said and done, we should still continue to what? Serve the Lord, seek His blessing, and also serve the devotees of the Lord. Is it the right kind of mood, Prabhu? Such a mood?
Yeah. So the key point is, what you said is correct. The key point is, those who follow the process of bhakti, and we are talking about the process of pure bhakti especially, the point is, for them, there is no need to take shelter of any other process, because bhakti is sufficient by itself to counteract all sinful reactions, give liberation, and beyond that to take one back home, back to God. So even in the initial stages of bhakti, and that is why we talk about the 6 benefits of bhakti, right? So even in the stage of sadhana bhakti, Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that sadhana bhakti, pure devotional service at sadhana bhakti level, which is our level, is kleshagni and shubhada, which means it destroys all sinful reactions, all kinds of suffering, and shubhada creates auspiciousness in our lives. So yes, so even if we may have so many shortcomings, and it will take time for us to come to the standard of being free from all faults. But the point is, we do not need to take shelter of any other process other than sadhana bhakti under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master to overcome our sins, our material tendencies, any shortcomings that we may have. The process of bhakti is complete and adequate. So yes, and even though as we are progressing, we may still continue to stumble for some time, we should not feel despondent. We should not lose hope. We have to be confident that because we have taken shelter of devotional service, we have taken shelter of the Lord and the devotees, our future will 100% be auspicious. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita also. Apiche suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabha sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavastho. Those who are engaged in my devotional service, even though they may occasionally commit because of past conditioning some mistakes, sometimes even abominable mistakes, still I consider them sadhus. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim yachati. Artha pratijanihi name bhakta pranashi. My devotee will never perish. Nahi kalyana krita kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. One who is engaged in the path of auspiciousness is never overcome by evil. He is not pushed into a negative destination. So those who are sincere sadhakas, even if sometimes through accident, through circumstance, they may end up committing something very big, Krishna, who is the ultimate purifier in their heart, will make sure that they never go to Durgati. So this kind of insurance is available only to the devotees, not to the karmi, not to the jnani, only for the bhakta. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So what you said is correct. Suresh Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a couple of questions. If it's late, I'll take it for next week. But
That's okay. You
I
can
will
ask one and then I'll go to Tarun and then we can come back to you.
Yeah,
I'm okay to
Prabhuji.
stay back.
Yeah, Prabhuji, this when someone is getting merged to Brahma Jyoti, right? So at that point of time, that Paramatma concept is there or not?
No, Paramatma is there only within the material realm.
So Brahma Jyoti, where exactly it's a
Brahma
interface?
Jyoti is the effulgence of the Lord.
Yeah.
So the entire material. So Brahma Jyoti, the domain of Brahma Jyoti in a physical conceptual way, if you want to imagine, as soon as, like when we discussed in the universal structure, as soon as the shell of the universe is over, just immediately outside is all Brahma Jyoti. That is the realm of the liberated souls.
Okay.
So there are many universes. They are actually in that sense, floating in the. So ultimately, everywhere there is Brahma Jyoti. There's a small area where there is this material cloud, which is, the pradhana, where the material manifestations. That Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of the Lord. So the Paramatma Tattva comes into existence only in the material world because this duality of matter and soul is there only within the material realm. Even in the Brahman Jyoti, everything is of the nature of spirit. There is no matter. Even though there is no, guna, lila, nama, because it is nirakar, nirgun, Brahma. But it is still spiritual nonetheless. There is no difference. There is no separate existence of the Paramatma Tattva. Even in even in Vaikunthas, there is no Paramatma Tattva. There is no need for that aspect.
So Bhagwan Tattva is also not there in Brahma Jyoti.
Correct. So Brahma Jyoti is essentially the emphasis is on pure existence and pure consciousness. So it's pure spiritual existence without any differentiation, without any rasa. Rasa means any actual interaction. So it's like, being, if you want to try to imagine it, you cannot imagine it, but if you try to imagine it, it's like, being in a frozen in a timeless state, in a state which is free of all misery, and in the state of joy of being. Understand the meaning of joy of being? When we become free from all miseries, the nature of the self itself is a joy, just the joy of being. The Anand of Sat. The Anand of Sat. So that is known as Brahmananda, just the joy of pure spiritual existence, just relishing in being spiritual. That itself is a state of joy. But that joy, even though it is millions of times higher than the material enjoyment, it is said as compared to the joy of the ras of pure bhakti, it is insignificant.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Tarun Prabhu, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have a very basic question, and this question is in context like we all are part of Paramatma, and ultimate destination is to go back. So I sometimes wonder that God can stay single, then why did He create us?
Because he wants to be joyful. Eko ham bahusyam. The Lord was one. He expanded into many. Why? For the purpose of increasing joy.
Joy in the sense means to play or
Yes. In a simple way, you can say play. And that is what is Leela. Leela is the exchange of ras between the Lord and his amshas or his expansions. Either his energies or his separated part and parcels. So the one truth, even though he is full of joy by himself without anything, he realized that he can expand his joy by expanding himself, by manifesting the jivas and having loving relationships with them. In that way, he expands his joy.
And
So
those
just
jivas
like,
then later forget them. Okay.
yeah,
Right. Sorry.
they forget him in the sense that the Lord gives the choice to the jivas to decide whether they want to love him or they don't want to love him. Because the joy of ras comes only when there is a free will. If the jiva doesn't have free will, then it becomes forced love. So forced love, there is no joy because you know that actually he's not loving me. He's just acting like this because, he doesn't have a choice. So that's not pleasurable to the Lord. So the Lord manifests himself in the form of so many jivas as a separated parts. But he gives all of them the opportunity to choose who wants to have a loving relationship with him. They enter the spiritual world. But there are some who say, no, I want to independently enjoy. I am not interested. God says, okay, choice is yours. Even though you are eternally my part and parcel, the choice is yours. So for those who want to enjoy independent of him, because they cannot enjoy independent of him in the spiritual world, because there the mood is totally different, the Lord specially creates the material realm, where the jiva is given a body and a false ego to forget who he spiritually is. Because if he remembers who he actually is, he cannot enjoy independence. So the Lord facilitate his desire to forget him, gives him a forgetful nature, until the jiva eventually comes to the realization that, oops, I made a mistake. Actually, this isn't a good deal. My actual nature is to be a part and parcel of the Lord. I want to, be reconnected with him. Then we can be re-established in our original position. So the Lord always gives us all that free will, the free will to choose. He doesn't force. Even Arjuna, Krishna did not force, right? At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yathechasi tata kuru. Correct? Huh? See, most of the other scriptures, I'm talking about beyond Sanatan Dharma, what they say, you do this, if you don't do this, you are doomed, you are finished, you are going to hell forever. on, you must do this. What is the tone of the highest scriptures? This is auspicious, this is inauspicious. This is what this path is like, these are its results. This is what this path is like, these are the results. Choose. The jiva always is given the choice. And that is why all these 14 planetary systems is there. That is why Brahma Jyoti is there. That is why spirit. Because some people will say, some jivas will say, oh, I don't want to serve you, God, but I don't want to be in the material world also. Here is Brahma Jyoti for you. Spiritual Brahma Jyoti, just be like that. So that's an option. So there's a whole spectrum of options. And to facilitate that spectrum of choices which the jiva can make, accordingly different possible destinations are created out of the Lord's unlimited energies, both material and spiritual. Understand? Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kama. He is the chief eternal amongst all eternals. And he is the chief conscious living entity amongst all the conscious part and parcels. And he is the one who is the fulfiller of the desire of all those individual part and parcels. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. So the choice of what to desire is ours. But without the Lord creating the facility to fulfill that desire, we cannot fulfill the desire, whether it's material or spiritual.
True.
The whole framework of reality within which we can fulfill any kind of desire, material, spiritual, middle, mixed, whatever it is, sinful, the whole facility is given by the Lord. But at the same time, through scripture, the Lord is saying, this is what is best. You understand? Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So you have made the right choice.
Yeah, Prabhu,
Suraj?
can I continue?
Yes,
Yeah,
Prabhu.
Prabhu,
Yeah, Prabhu.
same doubt. Okay.
Sudhir Prabhu, I'll come back to you. This one.
Okay, sure.
Yes, same doubt, Prabhuji, I had, like what Tarun asked.
Ah.
The choice, right? Choice is given at what? At the spiritual level, when the living entity is with spiritual planet, or when the creation was done, the choice was given there. Where exactly the choice
The
was
choice is actually eternal. Now we cannot exactly understand at what point we chose. That is very difficult to understand. But to give a very simplistic explanation for us, Prabhupada would explain it like this: that we were originally with the Lord in the spiritual world. At one point we thought, why should I necessarily, is there anything beyond this that I can have an enjoyable life separate from God? So this is a simplistic explanation which is given, Prabhupada explained. So Krishna tells the jiva, oh, fine, you want to try out something different? See that there is the material world there. You want to enjoy independent of me. So the choices of the jiva, Krishna is not that he's punishing, get out of here, he punches you in the face. Not like that. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. Oh, okay. You wanted to love me all this while, good. Now you want to be okay. These are the what kind of desire you have? You want to do this? Here, this. You want Brahma Jyoti? Here. You understand? So to facilitate the desire, is given that opportunity. Usually, the living entity, when he first comes into the material world, doesn't become a IT engineer in Hyderabad. He will become a Brahma or Indra or something very, very, very powerful position.
So Prabhuji, so again it's a leela of a God, like in case of Jaya Vijaya, something
Everything
like
is
that?
leela. Jaya Vijaya is a special case because they were put into illusion just to facilitate the Lord's pastime. So that is not exactly a fall down. It appears like a fall down. Appears like a fall down, but it is not a fall down. That whole leela is enacted just to facilitate the Lord's pastime. So even great devotees, when they come to the earth, they may not be able to recollect who I am.
Okay. Yeah.
So like that. So the Lord may put his temporarily cover. So that is Yog Maya, temporarily cover over even pure devotees and eternal associates. They may not be able to recollect they are in their previous lives.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah.
So that is why ultimately we should, the ultimate point is, the key point is, we are the ones who have chosen to be where we are. We are responsible for our situation. And how to get out from here, we have to decide and choose. God is waiting when you will choose. I will facilitate, but you choose. You have to desire. We have to desire. Huh? And our whole process of sadhana is an expression of that desire. I want to be with you. I want to serve you. So gradually that the coverings are removed, that pure desire eventually becomes manifest, and the Lord eventually facilitates that attainment.
Yeah,
So there are unlimited attainments for us possible. But fortunate is the jiva who comes to the conclusion that I do not want to be trapped in all the millions of possible pursuits within the three gunas. Nor do I simply want to be satisfied by being transcendental. I want to establish a positive relationship with the Supreme Lord and be established in the rasa of pure love. Correct? Then my heart will be fully satisfied. And there is no other state that the heart will be satisfied. A person who has this faith, who has developed this faith, is considered a faithful person, is a person who has transcendental Shraddha.
Yeah.
Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kohe Sudruda Nischay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita hai. But if I simply perform Krishna Bhakti, I don't need to do anything else. Just ask yourself, do you have that faith? Based on what we discussed in the Bhagavad. I don't need to do anything. We may not be able to perfectly do Krishna Bhakti. That's a different matter. Not even talking about that. But to have that faith, if I simply, like what Sudhir Sundar Prabhu said, no, if I'm convinced internally, not just speaking in class. Many people can speak in class also, but are we really convinced? Right? But even if I don't do any fruitive activity, even if I don't do gyan and other things, simply by following the process of the sadhana of pure devotion also, everything will get achieved. A person who even little bit has that faith, even though he is not yet very evolved, immediately receives the Lord's protection. And that faith comes only if one is fortunate to associate with those who have that faith. It cannot come in any other way. And that is why the association of those who have that faith is absolutely essential, because that faith will become implanted in our heart. Only being transferred from the heart of those who have that faith will come and become implanted in our heart. And then through the process of cultivation of hearing and chanting, that seed of faith will gradually become watered and will develop eventually into the fruit of prema.
Yeah.
That is why this is very, so that faith is very important. So those who have developed that faith are actually very fortunate. And those in whom that faith has become strong and fixed, they are considered Mahabhagyavan, very greatly fortunate. Very greatly fortunate. If you think about it from Krishna's angle, and we are talking about this because the great souls and Krishna reveals this in this. From Krishna's angle, this is very interesting. From Krishna's angle, a neophyte devotee who has developed this faith, even an IT engineer in Hyderabad, is still struggling in many ways. His job, his family, are still struggling in various ways, even in terms of perfectly following all the principles of dharma, but who has developed this faith through somehow getting the good fortune of being connected to a parampara and getting the opportunity to associate with sadhus. From Krishna's eyes, such a person is more dear and valuable than a very, very elevated jnani or a yogi. who may be almost perfect from Krishna's perspective. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So that is the power of even little tinge of pure devotional service, even in a Shraddha form. So that's why to understand this topic in great detail, we have to study books like Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So when we study all these books, Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we go deeper into this tattva, we'll understand what is actually the nature of bhakti. What is this all about? We are not just doing something sentimentally. There is a deep science behind all that we are practicing. And when we develop that faith in this tattva, then we will become very, very dear to Krishna. And that is our guarantee of being protected, even though we may still be struggling. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Sudhir Sundar Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, I mean, like if you would see even in chapter 10, what is that? Krishna will be telling you what is that, Arjuna, why do you need all these detailed knowledge the with the single fragment I can pervade and support this entire universe and so on. So that means ultimately, although as far as what is that sadhaka is concerned, we accept the Lord, have what faith in Him, become His devotee, and kind of surrender to Him. That will be our what ultimate goal, isn't it, Prabhu? Because if you see, sometimes you want to understand the Lord's opulence and all, it is beyond us. Is it a right approach, Prabhu? Because at the end of the day, ultimately you become a servant of the Lord, pay your humble obedience to Him, do your devotion service to Him, and also serve the devotees of the Lord.
Yeah.
And
so there are two ways, Prabhu. Yeah, you are right. See, there are two ways. There's one path where some individuals, spiritualists, yogis, understand the glories of the greatness of God through a long process. And eventually, understanding the greatness of God, they come to that conclusion. Bahunam janmanam ante. Vasudeva sarvamiti. Samhatmas. Bahunam janmanam ante. Jnanva mam prapadyate. Vasudeva sarvamiti samhatmas. Eventually they come. So the understanding of the opulence will eventually come to realize, oh, Sri Vasudeva Sarvam. Not that everything is Vasudeva, but everything is within him, everything is coming from him. They understand the glory of God and, get attracted to that glory and fall in love with it. So that is a consequence. But there are others who may not even be necessarily deeply studying his glories or his manifestations. I mean, that is fine also. But somehow they just get attracted directly to his personality, his character, his qualities. The gopis were not attracted to Krishna because, from the pores of the skin of one of the expansions of the expansions of the expansions of Krishna, universes are coming. Ah, that is this Krishna. Oh, you want to dance with him. They are not thinking like that. For them, Krishna is so sweet, so beautiful, such a wonderful personality. So their attraction is purely a very personal attraction to Krishna. So for us, I mean, it's not that understanding the glories of the Lord and his opulences also gradually helps us to come. But ultimately, the ultimate principle is developing pure love for him. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. Especially for us as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are not putting too much emphasis ultimately on the opulence aspect, but we are more attracted to the sweetness aspect of the Lord. But initially, when we are new, all these aspects of understanding the greatness of God helps us to surrender to God. And then as we start getting closer and closer to God, then the sweetness of God also starts becoming apparent as we get more and more purified and we get the opportunity to associate. So hope that helps you to get a balanced view. Yeah. So ultimately, yes, one has to just, it is enough to fall in love. Because you may learn all about opulences, but if you don't fall in love with Krishna at the end of the day, you've not achieved it, right? But if you fall in love with Krishna, even without knowing anything about his opulences, everything else will be achieved. That is the point.
Okay, Prabhu, thanks. Prabhu, can I just share one
Yeah,
example? I think there is always this question among us that were we from the what spiritual world, I know, and then what is that? How come we are here? Because it is also mentioned that once you are there, you won't come back to this material world. This is what it seems that Bhakti Charu Maharaj asked this question to Prabhupada. Are we really from this? What is that? Spiritual world or what? And then what is that? How come we are here? So Prabhupada's answer, he just told him that there is no need for us to know that. You just continue from where you are now. Just to share one point. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. So some of these transcendental things we cannot fully understand, even if it is explained, because we are so much in the material concept that we cannot appreciate. I asked this question to my own spiritual master, I think in my first meeting with him. Not wrong. My first meeting with Maharaj. And Maharaj looked at me and said, I can explain to you, but you will not be able to understand. So that is the reality. That's why sometimes a bit more simplistic explanation is given, because for us to even consider what is the spiritual world, what is the Brahma Jyoti, we only try to imagine from a 3D perspective. There is a light, Brahma Jyoti, then there is another space after that, which is like, so we can only do a 3D imagination, isn't it? Because we are conditioned soul with a material mind. So there's a limit of how much, to what extent we can grasp these concepts. So ultimately, these things will be realized when we come to that level. Correct? So sometimes the example is given. For a boy or a girl, a small young boy or a small young girl who has not yet reached puberty, even if somebody talks or describes about sex life, because they're not even reached puberty, they don't have that sense of physical attraction, the sexual urge. So they're not able to understand or appreciate what is being spoken about. Until the body reaches a stage of maturity that sentiment can be understood and experienced, it all remains too theoretical. So this is an example given by Acharya Singh. That so we have to mature and come to a particular level to appreciate certain things. But what we can understand at our level, the most important understanding is, even though we may not be able to exactly conceive what state we were in and why and how I made that decision, the undeniable fact is we made the decision. That is the point. We are looking to blame at somebody else. Sent me here. That guy, this person, that person. Krishna should have stopped me. Now, Krishna, it is your problem. You didn't stop me. You created me. All my misery is because of you. You created the world. Oh Lord, तुमने ये कैसी दुनिया बनाई? Now, what kind of world have you made? Full of suffering. So many people complain and they deny God because they say, "Oh, if God is, then why He created so much miserable place? This, that." So people are unable to understand and appreciate a deeper and higher thing. But at least at our level, let us accept the principle that we are eternally part and parcels. We had that option to choose whether to love Him or not love Him. And the very fact that we are here now, in a material world, in a body, going through samsara, means we made a wrong choice at some point. Exactly at what point, when, how, what were the circumstances? You're already fallen into the water. Prabhupada sometimes would give this example like what you mentioned, right? If a person is already fallen into the water, the first thing he has to think is how to swim out of the water and come on the shore. If somebody comes to him in a boat and says, "Come, I'll pull you out." "No, you first tell me who pushed me down." "No, I'll not accept your hand. I'm drowning, but first you explain how exactly it happened. किसने मुझको धक्का दिया?" And he says, "No, Baba, first you come, I'll explain to you later what happened." No, first, I am not catching your hand unless you explain to me exactly. So the point is, we made the choice. We may not be fully able to understand the state and the situation in which that decision was made, and that brought a beginning of our Triguna involvement, which has perpetuated for endless time. Anadi. Our samsara involvement is anadi since millions and millions of births. So our prime concern right now should be how to get out of the ocean of samsara. We are already fallen here. Now what we want to argue, and let's first get out. So that is the point. Okay. So yeah. So God is neutral. Krishna says, "Samoham sarva bhuteshu nami dveshyosti." I am not envious. I have not pushed somebody into the water. Dveshyosti na priya. Not that some people I kept with me, some I pushed into the water. No. I am equal to everyone and I am equally available to everyone. But I am available, but have you taken benefit of my availability? That is your choice. No? How is that Krishna's problem? So let us take ownership of our mistake and improve from here on. Krishna is still available to us. He has not rejected us. We rejected him. He never rejected us. And the proof of that is, even when in the material world, he has come as Paramatma in our heart. That is the proof. He's still waiting when we will turn towards him. Okay? Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Jai Samaveta Gaura Bhakta. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bo.
Thank you,
Krishna,
Prabhu. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.